What's going on, you wild xenomorphs out there? Your two favorite sci-fi enthusiasts are back tonight for the 31 Days of Horror. We're talking about Ridley Scott's 1979 sci-fi horror classic film starring Sigourney Weaver as Ripley. That's right, we're talking about Alien.
And many will say this is Ridley Scott's magnum opus, his masterpiece. And I would have to agree with him for the most part. You know, this movie came out in 1979. There's a lot of horror movies coming out, first time directors back then, but this is one that, stands the test of time. It's so futuristic, so ahead of its time in terms of technology and premise. And, rewatching this recently for 31 Days of Horror, man, it still gets under my skin and my stomach.
Oh, man, does it ever. It sure holds up. The set design, the design of the xenomorphs, man, everything looks fantastic. I think it was H.R. Geiger that came up with the design for the aliens and for how the eggs looked and the ships and everything. Just the way everything looks, it still holds up today. Obviously the computers and that sort of stuff looks dated, of course. But as far as looking good and what they were able to, the practical sets and the practical effects are just phenomenal. There's, still haven't been touched by today. They've tried to remake these movies and reboot them 100 times. It's just not the same as the original film, the OG Alien. And it, kicked off this franchise that's still going on all these years later. We're going to be getting a TV show and more movies to come. And it all kicked off with the first one, which was, more of a horror film than any of the others too. The aliens weren't all up in your face. They were hiding in the shadows. They were up in the ceiling in the dark shadows. And they, when they made an appearance, boy, did they ever, leave an impression on you and scare the shit out of you.
Yeah, they really rely on horror and suspense in this movie. That's why I think it's my favorite film of the franchise. Just what Ridley Scott does in this movie, it just gets under your skin, and the way that he goes about it with the score and the angles of the camera and the background and the colors, set design, it really creates this really spooky atmosphere, and you kind of feel isolated with these people as to what's going on, and them one by one essentially getting picked off by this alien species. It all kind of happens when they're on this spaceship and they get this SOS signal on this deserted planet, and that's kind of what sets up the whole movie essentially, with this alien coming on board and killing them off.
Yeah, one by one. And by the time that they figure out what's happening, it's too late. It's been able to infiltrate other people's bodies, the whole crews, get inside their bodies. And when they start noticing, something wrong with the people, that's when they are, burst through the chest or, come out and attach to the face. And facehuggers, those, it basically looks like fingers are able to attach to the face. And man, it's creepy as hell. I love the look of the facehuggers, all the different aliens in this, the eggs, and how when they bleed, it's like acid, which was another awesome part of the movie. Not only are they able to bleed, but when they do bleed and it gets on you, you're going to have, acid burns all over your body. Another awesome aspect, like you were mentioning, the score, it really goes with the movie. It really makes this movie so tense. That's another part that makes this more of a horror. The tensions ramped up to 10 in this movie. And it has a lot to do with, like you mentioned, how Ridley Scott shoots the scenes, how he uses the camera, the angles that he uses, and he really ups the suspense. And this movie, like the tagline says, in space, no one can hear you scream. Just that alone, you can picture yourself as these characters on the ship having no idea like what's out there. They're isolated, and that's what you really feel in this movie. You're like, they're all alone, nobody to help them. They're going to have to try to survive. And you can imagine being in Ripley's, place. In this film, she isn't the badass that, she became as the franchise went on. She was just a regular person trying to survive. And that's really what she had to do in this film, survive and, try to get away. And she was able to do that by the end of the film. But it didn't take the franchise, away. Obviously, it continued. And man, when she goes head to head with some of those aliens, those scenes are, still stand out for me.
Yeah, she's incredible. I mean, this is what kickstarted Sigourney Weaver's career. Ellen Ripley, one of the most iconic characters of all time, setting up for a character in many other movies. The things she goes through trying to survive and get out of the situation and try to protect people the best she can. It's really, really amazing. But, the supporting cast, Tom Skerritt's in this, big actor back in the day, Top Gun, was in Picket Fences, some TV shows. Veronica Cartwright playing Lambert, Harry Dean Stanton playing Brett, John Hurt, the iconic scene with the alien coming out of his stomach. He plays Kane. Ian Holm, probably one of my favorite characters in the movie, the scientist guy.
Bilbo.
Bilbo. He played Ash. I liked what they did with his character. And just a great cast all around. And you just kind of feel for these characters. Very original, I thought, from 1979. A lot of movies stole a lot of ideas from this. So definitely one of Ridley Scott's best movies, and a movie you have to watch during the Halloween season. It just gets better and better with each viewing. Stands the test of time. Very futuristic, very ahead of its time, and definitely a movie to rewatch. With that being said, I'm going to give Ridley Scott's original Alien, came out in 1979, a 5 out of 5 Ellen Ripley hair pieces.
Oh yes, Alien is definitely a masterpiece. It's one of the best films of all time. Ridley Scott's magnum opus, like you mentioned, his masterpiece, and made Sigourney Weaver a star. She went on to star in as Ripley, many other times. Keeps revisiting the character every so often, keeps coming back. And it's no wonder why, because it was such a memorable character. She became such a badass as the series went on, and it all kicked off in this film. And this film's the best in the franchise, obviously. And there's a reason why the franchise is going on 50 years now. It's just going to keep going, and it's all because of the vision that Ridley Scott had, and the screenplay by Dan O'Bannon, who went on to direct some horror films back in the day, Return of the Living Dead. Their vision, along with H.R. Geiger's, drawings and his concepts for what the aliens and the ship look like and all that stuff in space. Everything came together perfectly for this brilliant science fiction horror film. And it's definitely a movie you should watch. This 31 Days of Horror and every 31 Days of Horror. So with that being said, absolutely, I'm giving Alien a 5 out of 5 Ian Holm hair pieces.
I want to hear from all you xenomorphs out there. What did you like about the original Alien? What didn't you like about it? What's your favorite film in the franchise? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to stab, subscribe. Also, check out these wild rascals on Facebook, X, and Instagram, and our website, cinefellas.com, for latest, greatest TV, movie news and reviews.
That's right. We've been reviewing horror movies and shows all month long, and loved going into the Alien franchise. We loved it so much that we are also going to come back and review Aliens, the sequel that came out, 7 years later, I believe, 1986, directed by a little-known director. You guys may have heard of him, maybe not, James Cameron. Well, he came back for the sequel, Aliens, so we're going to be back to review that very soon, so stay tuned.
That's considered one of the greatest sequels of all time, but me and this guy over here are going to be diving into that and really talking about if it really is one of the greatest sequels of all time.
So thank you guys so much for watching our review of the Ridley Scott masterpiece, Alien. And until the next 31 Days of Horror movie review, I'm Uncle Ripley Hill.
And I'm Logan Scott, signing out until the next horror movie review for 31 Days of Horror.
Jeez.